Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to your weekly dose of celestial goodness. Thank you, as always, for joining me in this space and on this journey. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate the time that you take to watch these videos, and also to think about the message and how to use, what we're talking about to live your best life. So, thank you. This week was actually a pretty long week for me, and I was really saddened to learn about the death of Chadwick Boseman, the very talented and gifted actor. It just felt like his death added to a multitude of things with this year that really made it just feel like this year is just too much, right? It has been a lot of sadness, a lot of suffering, and this very strange paradox of not knowing when it will all end. So, even for the optimists like myself among us, it can be hard some days. And these events can really cause a lot of people to experience depression and anxiety and a greater amount of sleep-related issues. So, because of this, I think that it's very important more than ever to hold a space for our emotions and how we're feeling, and also to hold a space for the way that we grieve and heal. Two of my friends, Natalie and Zarifa, have started an amazing podcast called Sippin Tea with Nat Z, and I will put the link in the description below because this past week, they talked about the gravity of grief. And they talked about it in how it relates to the different ways that we grieve different things, like the loss of a loved one, pets, a way of life, jobs, and so much more. And this episode really sat with me, and it really helped me to think about and become really conscious about how I grieve and how I heal and how I hold a space for myself and others in the grieving process. So this is something that we could talk about endlessly, but grief is actually not our topic this week on Celestial Goodness 1111. Rather, I just wanted you guys to know that there are resources out there to help with that. And the world is not an easy place right now. And so you be easy with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And really make sacred spaces for your joy and for your happiness and for, good energy paralleling all the other things that are happening in the world. And be very vigilant about how you guard these spaces, because they are worth so much more right now to our well-being. And I think it's very important to sort of be able to coexist in this world, both with our joy and with our sadness. And I do think that is one of the ways that we'll make it to the other side of all of the pain that we feel in this time, is that one day we will look back and these times will be a memory instead of a reality. So what we are talking about this week, though, is actually kind of closely connected. And we're talking about the importance of sleep. I know, the thing that eludes some, right? On Monday, April 25th, 2016, and I know because I have the ticket stub, I actually took myself out to dinner. I savored a delicious meal. It was probably at Nando's in the Chinatown neighborhood of Washington, D.C. And then I stood in line to get into the historic 6th and I Synagogue, which is a beautiful space. And the event was for Arianna Huffington, yes, the creator of the Huffington Post. She was there to talk about her new book, The Sleep Revolution. And the topic, most people don't talk about sleep except if it's in the negative, like, oh, I'm not getting enough sleep, and you can sleep when you're dead, and sleep is getting in the way of my progress. Sleep has been glorified in the sense of how little people can get by on. Like, I don't need that much sleep to thrive. That's sort of where society has moved towards. But there are scientifically a few people out there who can actually get by on a few hours of sleep, but that's not the norm, right? Sleep is in fact essential to the essence of our life. And in her book, The Sleep Revolution, Ariana really made the case for why sleep is so essential to everything that we do and who we are. I listened, I was very captivated, and after the event, I scuttled home on the metro to try and actually get enough sleep for the next day. I put that book on my bookshelf, and that's where it sat for 4 more years. Now we're in the pandemic, and I've inventoried all my unread books while actually still getting new books. And there are various reasons why we don't read a book right away, but I was determined that I was going to read more of my untouched books. And so I know that they'll all get read in time. And I do think sometimes a book comes to us, but maybe it's not the time yet for us to read it, but it wants to be there for when it is the time. So when I actually started the book, it really opened my eyes to my own sleep habits. And when I finished, I felt a real change in my perspective with regards to sleep. I was transformed. And I wonder, do you ever ask yourself the question, how much sleep and how much rest am I getting? Do you think you're getting enough sleep? I did some of my own research, and the CDC, NIH, the American Academy for Sleep Medicine all have similar results for how much sleep we should be getting. So infants should really be getting anywhere from 12 to 17 hours. That does include their naps. Children anywhere from 9 to 13 hours. Teenagers 8 to 11. And adults come in at a solid 7 to 9 hours. So it is also scientifically proven that women may need more sleep than men. The reality, though, is that most people today aren't actually getting enough sleep. Sleep deprivation is an issue all over the world, and the book really highlighted some places like Japan, for example, where there's even a term for sleep deprivation and death by sleep deprivation. And speaking of death, sleep deprivation has led to some very unfortunate events like people committing suicide and just having a total mental breakdown. We live in a world that does promote the hustle culture, and I don't have any issue in knocking anybody's hustle, but I do want people to rest and to learn that sleep is valuable. It would also be very remiss of me to have this conversation without acknowledging that there are actually many socioeconomic issues that come into play with why people can't get enough sleep. All right? We live in a capitalist society, and that does impact a lot of things, including our rest. And as a Jamaican, I know all too well about the culture of glorifying having multiple jobs, but also sometimes people need those jobs to survive, but that means something gets sacrificed. So there is a social commentary here, but I have to save that for another time, right? So I just wanted to let that be known that I understand there are reasons why you're not getting enough sleep, or that some people are not getting enough sleep. Now, when I did my own sleep analysis, I found that I was getting anywhere from 5 to 6.5 hours of sleep per night with an occasional nap here and there. And what this meant is that other things started happening in my life, fluctuating weight, fatigue, and real moments of irritability where I may have said something that I regret. And it also led to other health issues, which I'm still working through. So there's something called sleep debt. And if you sleep less than you need, that total sleep, the total loss, adds up to what is called your sleep debt. Bad sleeping habits and long-term sleep loss can actually have really serious repercussions for your health. Also, being extremely sleepy is the equivalent of being legally drunk. So we don't condone drinking and driving or drinking on the job, and yet we allow people to do these things, to work, to drive, all while they're going through extreme bouts of tiredness. Poor sleeping habits are also linked to certain medical conditions like heart failure, heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, and stroke. Poor sleep can actually affect the glucose metabolism and increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. Poor sleep is also linked to anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. And aside from the mental impact, there are other major ways that a lack of sleep really does impact our life. When your sleep improves, you can improve your concentration, your cognitive functions like memory retention, and you can also increase your productivity. You feel more focused, you have increased athletic performance, your immune system is boosted, you reduce the risk of a common cold, and even when you do get a cold, what's one of the first things you think to do? Sleep, because that is where the healing is happening. And you also lower the risk of inflammation to parts of your body. So, I mean, that is just so much, right? That's like an ad alone for like getting more sleep. With better sleep, you can also increase your emotional and social interactions and decrease moodiness and irritability. So sometimes if someone's being really mean, they may just be tired. Why is this the case though? So scientists have actually found that sleeping improves the body and provides the body with some very important and much needed functions when we're sleeping. When our brains are at rest, it's also doing this sort of like self-cleaning. It's our own waste clearance system, and that system in the body is known as the glymphatic system, and it washes away harmful proteins like beta amyloids that can build up in our body. The lack of sleep can also help build up the stress hormone of cortisol. So, don't you feel a real sense of gratitude for the amazing power of your body to regulate these things? I do, especially when I was getting so little sleep, right? So what does make us sleep? There are many factors that help us sleep and help us to wake up. The body's clock functions on a 24-hour kind of repeating rhythm known as the circadian rhythm. Circadian actually comes from the Latin word circa, which means around, and dies for day. So this rhythm is actually governed by a small group of cells that is located in our hypothalamus in our brain. And the rhythm dips and rises at different times in the day. This actually correlates to what makes us feel sleepy and what makes us feel awake. It's also why some people at 3 o'clock, they might be like, oh, I need a cup of coffee, because they're dipping. There are also two main processes that control this. There's a compound called adenosine that is linked to the need for sleep. And when you are awake, this really does start to rise in your brain. This rising is like building up to you feeling sleepy. So when you sleep, your body starts to break it back down. The second process involves our internal body clock. This is the clock that's in sync with cues from our environment. So light and darkness, sounds, and other cues help us feel sleepy and help us feel awake. So light signals received to our eyes tell us that it's daytime. And this is the area of our brain that helps align us with periods of day and night. This is also one reason why it's very important to try to get a lot of natural light in the daytime. And if you can, some people have different environments that don't really allow for that, but it does help to keep your circadian rhythm in order. And when it gets dark, your body releases a hormone called melatonin. And melatonin signals to your body that it's time to prepare for sleep, and it helps you to feel drowsy. Some people take melatonin as a sleeping aid to go to bed. Sleep does play also a very important role in our dream world, and I consider myself a deeply spiritual person. And my dreams have been very important in my life, and I've gotten some important guidance from dreams. There are a lot of historical figures who also talk about how this has functioned in their life as well. And Ariana gave an example in the book of a German psychobiologist, Dr. Otto Lowy, and he dreamt of a chemical experiment on the nervous system, nerve impulses. He got up from his dream, he rushed to his lab, and the results of that experiment actually won him a Nobel Prize. So, another psychiatrist that she spoke with said, dreams may be our most creative conscious state, one in which the chaotic, spontaneous recombination of cognitive elements produce novel configurations of information and new ideas. So, if you get a great idea from a dream after watching this video, let me know. Freud and Jung also both study dreams in depth, and that could be a whole video by itself as well. The essence here is that dreams are important, and sleep is what allows that to happen. Dreams don't happen without the sleep. Most people also recommend keeping a notebook by your bed to record your dreams, because it can be very interesting to revisit them later. There are a lot of factors that impact how much sleep you're getting, and I really urge you that no matter what your life is structured like, what's going on in your life, really try to prioritize your sleep. All the things I've talked about in previous videos about your visions and your dreams and your goals, you get the energy to do that when you feel rested, and you get the fuel that you need to actually make them happen. Recently, I started trying to make sure that I get a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, and I have noticed a change in my energy and just my overall mood. I just feel so much better. And in my own research and reading this book, I really got some good suggestions on how to get more and better sleep. Like, I even listened to this thing on the Calm app with LeBron James talking about he gets like 12 hours of sleep when he has a game, and he takes naps because he said that's actually what helps his performance the most as an athlete. So I've added some tips, Celestial Goodness's tips for getting more sleep and getting more rest. So the first thing I would suggest is to make sleep a ritual for yourself. Create a sacred process for getting sleep. You may decide when it's bedtime, you want to take a shower, then you want to have a hot cup of chamomile tea, and then maybe you want to read a physical book for 30 minutes. Creating a type of ritual that you follow consistently can actually help trigger your brain to knowing when it's actually time to go to bed. Next, I would say keep technology out of your sleeping space if possible, or as far away from your bed as possible. There's a blue light associated with a lot of technology, and it really impacts the circadian rhythm. And so most technologies nowadays have a night mode, but it also doesn't help us from stopping this compulsive behavior of checking messages constantly. So when it's out of sight, it's also easier to be out of mind. The third would be to adjust the temperature to a cool temperature. Apparently anything over 75 degrees is actually very uncomfortable for sleep. And they say that around 66 degrees Fahrenheit is actually a really good sleeping temperature. So, and if you're like me, you love to have the fan, the cool air, and a good blanket, and then that is like the best sleep, man. Also, are there any sounds that you like to listen to while sleeping? I use my Alexa device to play rain sounds or ocean sounds. When we sleep, we also go into 4 different cycles of sleep, and they include delta and theta waves. YouTube has very excellent sounds that you can also play while you sleep. I used to listen to a lot of theta waves when I really wanted deep sleep, and I hadn't yet found breathing techniques and meditation to help calm my mind before going to bed. So that's another good one. I would also say for the next one, have some special sleep clothes that you don't wear for anything else. Not the t-shirt that you will occasionally wear to the gym. Have your designated sleep clothes. When you put this on, it indicates this is time for bed. Some people also like to sleep naked, and that is also scientifically proven to be a good way to go to sleep. It says, I'm going to bed for sure. 6th, I would also suggest utilizing aromatherapy. I have an air diffuser, and sometimes I drop a few lavender oil drops in there, and it's so amazing. Like, the fan is going, the sleep sounds are on, it smells good. That is like a quick recipe to go to bed. And 7th, make the room as dark as possible. The darkness helps with the circadian rhythm and helps to tell your body it's time to sleep. 8th, I would consider what you eat in the evening. So sometimes what we eat and drink, like coffee and alcohol, can have an impact on our sleep. So paying attention to your routines might help you identify what you need to change up there. And then 9, instead of sleeping pills, in research, there is some real messy stuff with sleeping pills. Like, you can do that research. We don't even have time to jump into that today. But I would suggest trying something like meditation or breathing techniques. There's so many good ones these days. There's an abundance of them. And those are really good ways to help you get to sleep as well. So these are just a few tips, and I really say find what works for you. Keep a sleep journal, write down, what's working, how much sleep you're getting, how you feel when you get a certain amount of sleep or not. And then understand that these are just small steps towards like meaningful changes for your overall well-being, right? Health is definitely wealth. It won't all happen overnight, but I've learned that even a week of good sleep can really be impactful. I do wish you well on this endeavor, and I hope that as you go through this next week, you'll be more rested and definitely able to face what is coming your way. If you do like these videos, which I hope you are, please please comment, please subscribe to this channel, and please share these freely with whoever you'd like to. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. May the stars shine brightly over your week, and may it be a beautiful one. Thank you.